Hello everyone, it's Laffy Chaffy. Okay. It's Law's birthday! It's Law's birthday! And for that special occasion of October 6th, we're going to be talking about the pivotal role that his alliance plays in One Piece, both for Luffy's character and for the story overall. Isn't it sad that this is my first Law-centric video? I feel like this should have happened sooner, but I'm taking his birthday as an excuse to actually make one. So if you like Law, leave a like on the video. But before we get into all of that, if it's your first time, feel free to subscribe. There's plenty of One Piece content here. I also do live manga reactions, so if you're caught up to the manga, feel free to go check me out on Twitch, where I do live reactions at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday that there's a chapter, and also some reviews and other things. I also watch the One Piece anime, so if you're anime only, you can feel free to go watch that. This video will be anime friendly up until a certain point, but I'll make it clear once we pass that threshold, so if you're anime only, feel free to keep watching. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the importance of Law and the alliance and how it's pushed Luffy forward in the story, how it's progressed the plot of the story, and what it means to the world of One Piece when it comes to the new age. So, starting off in the very beginning of Law's introduction, immediately he was a fan favorite. He was a super cool character, super weird power, super cool aesthetic, and he had Beppo. So, already you knew that this guy meant business. He had Beppo. Law was already spotlighted along with Kid, where they, all three of them with Luffy, fought against the Marines, and you know, there was already something special about the two of them, which we see now in Wano, the reason for that and how that paid off. But Law was even more special because he was actually the one who saved Luffy from Marineford, so immediately when that happened, I knew that Law was going to be someone different. You know, he's gonna be above and beyond the rest of the supernova, which was true, because he saved Luffy, he risked his life and crew to go to Marineford to save him and Jinbei, and treated their wounds and carried them away safely. And as if that wasn't enough, fast forward 2 years in the story, and Law is actually seen on Punk Hazard, the first official island of the New World. Fishman Island, you know, that's kind of a transitional period, but it was a transitional island to get into the New World. So the New World proper is where shit starts happening, and that is where we meet Law again, and we see that he has stationed himself on Punk Hazard as a kind of undercover underling of Caesar's, who is Doflamingo's, who is Kaido's, the list goes up. And it turns out that Law is actually seeking to take down Kaido. Law here is the biggest quest giver of the New World because he immediately reaches out to Luffy and offers Luffy an alliance to take down one of the emperors. Now, given Luffy had already picked a fight with Big Mom on Fishman Island for her territory, as well as later on you could say that inevitably Sanji would have been captured and Luffy would have had to confront Big Mom on Whole Cake Island regardless. But adding Kaido onto that definitely, you know, upped the stakes here now that we're on Wano and both of them are here. It's a lot to handle. And to be fair, I do want to mention that, of course, Kinemon and Momo were also on Punk Hazard, so you could argue that if they had sought out the Straw Hats for help, or if the Straw Hats had just taken an interest in them and followed them, they would have went to Dressrosa, then Zoe, then Wano anyway. But there's a much bigger significance here with Law, a part of the new generation, the worst generation, allying with Luffy to take on the big shots, the big emperors, the Yonko of the sea. Now, it's not to say that if Luffy just picked a fight with Kaido because of Kinemon, that wouldn't have been, you know, significant, because that still would have been an impactful storyline, but it really is supposed to give the impression of the uprising of the new generation, and that's why Law is so involved in this. And there's no better person to describe the impacts that Law has on the new world and what that all means for the new generation versus the old than Law himself. On Punk Hazard, when he defeats Vergo, which is like the coolest moment ever, he states himself that he is the one who broke the gears here. It's been 2 years since the war at Marineford, and since then, nothing has really happened. The biggest thing was that Blackbeard became a Yonko and took Whitebeard's place, but the tides were still pretty stagnant. Everyone was just waiting for something. Everything was still, and it was still the way that it has always been. So, with Law teaming up with Luffy to take on one of the emperors, he literally and figuratively broke the gears of the sad factory on Punk Hazard, which then led to Doflamingo, and him not being able to create smiles anymore, which then weakened Kaido's army. There was a lot of repercussions down the line of what Law did on Punk Hazard. Not only allying with Luffy, but also breaking the sad factory. So then, teaming up with Luffy, they go after one of the big emperors. And of course, Luffy being Luffy is all gung-ho about it. And he's like, oh yeah, an emperor? I gotta beat all of them anyway, might as well start here. So they go off to Dressrosa. And of course, Law plays a very pivotal role in Dressrosa as he makes sure that Luffy doesn't die, because if Luffy had fought Doflamingo by himself, I don't know if he would have won. In fact, I know he wouldn't have won, because Law put in some work there. He didn't win, but he definitely put in some work there. And Law honestly had a pretty cool plan in Dressrosa. Rewatching the series, I forgot the little detail that he was the one who brought Fujitora to Dressrosa after he had talked to Smoker on Punk Hazard. So that whole thing with, you know, if Doflamingo had actually stepped down from the warlords, Fujitora would have been there to take him down. You know, that would have been a pretty solid plan. But alas, Law just didn't think about the fact that Doflamingo was a celestial dragon and could manipulate the entire world's newspapers through Cypherpole. Who would have thought? So with that, you know, little detail, his plan did not work, and he ended up fighting side by side with Luffy, which was still a really impactful moment because he had so much faith in Luffy and the Straw Hats. And I haven't even mentioned yet, but the Will of D plays a huge role in the alliance in general, because Law took a special liking to Luffy from the beginning because of the Will of D. Learning Law's backstory, we learn a lot about the Will of D and how it had to do with Corazon being the one who saved Law from Doflamingo because of the Will of D, and this whole time Law was very focused on the Will of D being the only reason, maybe not the only reason, I mean realistically Law knew that Corazon loved him and cared for him, but he thought it was a much bigger part of it was the Will of D and the fact that the Ds will bring up a storm, that myth and wives' tale about it. But talking with Sengoku on Dressrosa, Law realized, you know, I think it felt a lot more real to Law hearing it from Sengoku talk about Corazon and the fact that Corazon didn't know about the Will of D. And while that might have been the spark that interested Corazon in Law and wanted him to get away from Doflamingo, realistically traveling together, going from hospital to hospital, that's not the reason that he did it. You know, he just loved him. He cared for him and he became his savior. But the Will of D concept, that theme, carried on through Law throughout his entire life. And now that he sees Luffy with the Will of D, that same spark that interested Corazon in Law is now interesting Law in Luffy, because the D will bring up a storm. And Law is one of the ones who is pushing Luffy to be that storm, while Law is his own storm in the meantime, breaking the gears and setting everything in motion. He's almost like a puppeteer, which is a cool kind of comparison, with Doflamingo being the puppeteer of Dressrosa. Law kind of pushes Luffy in the direction that he needs to completely turn the world up on its head. So Law assists Luffy in taking down Doflamingo and even pushes, you know, you could technically indirectly thank Law for the entire formation of the Grand Fleet, which was a huge turning point in the story, as well as, more importantly, Luffy's character, because now that he has this huge following, seeing him as King of the Pirates becomes easier and easier. So it was really cool to see him yes, Beppo, okay, leave Beppo alone. So you could technically thank Law indirectly for that, you know. But then we move on to Zoe, where Law, I feel like, you know, this is kind of a sneaky thing that Law's done here, which a lot of, you know, it used to be a common theory that Law would betray the Straw Hats, but I think at this point, especially after Dressrosa, it's pretty clear that Law invested a lot into their alliance and trusts Luffy with his life, and has put his life on the line, you know, saying that he was gonna die alongside Luffy because he felt responsible for putting them in that position. That doesn't sound like someone who's gonna betray Luffy, but, you know, if he was going to betray Luffy, if he's really playing the long game, he's got the ammo for it, because he knows about the poneglyphs, about Joy Boy, about Robin being the only one who knows how to read it. You know, he was all there. You know, he was there throughout all of that exposition on Zoe when the Minks and Kazukis and the Straw Hats were all talking, so, you know, he knows a lot about it. So Zoe, although it was an intermediate arc, and then we go to Whole Cake Island where Law doesn't play a part in, Law learns a whole lot, and their alliance grows to be more than just the Kaido. It's kind of like the end game now, you know. I, for one, could definitely see the alliance going much further, even after Kaido. But then we get to Wano, where the main focus is definitely on the Kazukis and, you know, Kinemon's plan to overthrow Orochi and Kaido during the raid. But Law is there throughout all of it. He plays certain roles. He doesn't play too big of a role, and that was one thing that might have been a small complaint, is that maybe Law could have offered more to the table, maybe? I mean, he did do a lot when Penguin, Sachi, and Beppo were captured. He turned himself in so that the alliance wouldn't be compromised. He tried to put all the Straw Hats out of danger as Luffy went against Kaido. You know, he definitely did help try to shepherd Luffy in as Luffy showed up and started causing havoc as he usually does. But it wasn't until the official raid that Law really played a big part, when he showed up on the shores and then he figured out the plan that Kinemon was, you know, trying to do but was falsely given the credit for. Law kind of stepped in. He's like, okay, Kinemon, yeah, now that that's out of the way, we're gonna talk about the actual plan now. And Luffy and Kid are gonna storm the island right in the center. That's where they're gonna go. So then we're gonna take all the big samurai and we're gonna spread them out on both sides. So now we're attacking at 3 points, and then with my submarine, my handy dandy yellow submarine, I'm going to take the big fighters, besides Kinemon and Denjiro, to the back, where we're going to teleport with my powers onto the back of the island and take Onigashima from the back. So that is 4 different attack points. Does that sound good? He definitely orchestrated a big part of the raid, so that was really cool to see his planning get put into action, because that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about his character, is that he was such a great planner and he thought ahead. It all crumbled down with Doflamingo purely because Doflamingo was a celestial dragon and there was no way that Law could have seen, but you know, he's finally learned to incorporate Luffy not following the plan as part of the plan, which I think is the biggest brain strat that you could possibly think of when it comes to Luffy and just, you know, attacking with the Straw Hats in any way. So Law definitely figured out how to handle them. But yes, everything that I've been mentioning has all led up to this big attack against Kaido, the Emperor of the Sea. Law has come in since Punk Hazard, pushing Luffy in the proper direction and making sure that the alliance is really symbolic of the new generation standing up against the current powerhouses. And we even see that Apu, Kid, and Hawkins attempted to make a alliance, but with them being the way that they are, especially Apu being a little shit and then Hawkins being a coward basically, it didn't really work well. They didn't work well together, and it didn't end up being what should have happened. What should have happened is what Law and Luffy did, and then they brought Kid along as well, because Kid was one of the, you know, the main 3 back on Sabaody. You know, Kid was special and above the rest of them, so they, all 3 of them, although they bicker and fight amongst each other, they honestly all respect each other enough to work well together and not betray the alliance. So here we are on Wano. Now I'm gonna put on some spoiler alerts for anime onlys. We're gonna be talking about some stuff with the manga real quick before we wrap up the video. But yeah, this is manga only now. The anime's getting close, but there's still a lot that the anime needs to cover. So if you're anime only, stay tuned for that. Keep watching, but not this video. So, Starting off in the manga territory, we have that Law was shown to have a special interest in the Will of D, like I was mentioning before, and I really like that that kind of goal was solidified and focused on Wano, because a lot of people think that he's going to die soon, but I think that ship has sailed at this point, and Law has a focus now. He wants to find out what the Will of D is, and we even see him talking with Robin about it, about what the possibilities could be with it, what does it mean. You know, we have Luffy, the Will of D character, but he honestly doesn't care a lot about the history and things like that, so it's kind of good to have Law along, who is also a member of the Will of D, but actually cares about what it means. So that's why I have one of my theories that Law is actually going to be sticking around till the end game, that his alliance with Luffy is going to become kind of just a permanent allegiance there. You know, the alliance ends when Kaido gets taken down, but I 100% see them continuing to sail together, maybe even to Laugh Tale. I don't know if it's going to go that far, but I think with Law's determination to find out what the Will of D is going to be, will be a big driver of the plot for someone who's actually a member of the Will of D. Like I said, Luffy doesn't really care about it. So him and Robin have already bonded about trying to find out and, you know, talking about the significance of it. So it's really cool how integrated he's become now at the end game. Because first, his big thing was Dressrosa. His plot kind of ended in Dressrosa, and that's why there was a lot of theories that he was going to die on Wano. But now, we've shifted his goals now that Doflamingo was defeated, and his 12, 13 years of hatred and need for revenge has been accomplished. Now we can focus on to what Law should be living for and what Corazon would have wanted. And, you know, his focus on what Corazon's wish was a big thing about the Will of D. So here he is, following the Will of D, and I think that's why we're going to see him in the end game. And of course he's played huge parts on fighting on Wano against Kaido and Big Mom, Roof Piece. Roof Piece was that much better because Law was up there. So that was really cool, and he definitely played his part about, you know, saving Zoro and bringing them all back down after Luffy claimed Kaido for himself. And now he's fighting against Kid and Big Mom, which I was gonna make my video focused all about the fight with Big Mom and Kid because I'm so excited to see what that could be. But I just have a feeling that they're not going to be the ones to actually defeat Big Mom, that I would feel like it would be kind of a waste, kind of, to talk about the possibilities there. So this is what I went with instead, but I will mention that they have hypothetically, if the plot allowed it, they would have a decent shot at taking down Big Mom, especially with Law, because of his abilities and kind of getting past that guard thing, but I won't go into that anymore. Law has played a very big role in Wano, and so just wanted to highlight how that alliance that started all the way kind of back in Sabaody has all culminated into this big fight, big showdown on Wano, on Onigashima. And as I talked about, I even see his alliance going even further into the future with the Will of D, with that focus, talking with Robin about it, trying to find out what it really means to be a member of the Will of D, let alone what it actually means for the rest of the world. But there's no doubt here that Law was certainly a pivotal player in pushing the series and Luffy to accomplish all the great things that he has. From taking down another warlord, to freeing a country, to becoming a leader of the Grand Fleet, to now taking down a Yonko, to becoming a Yonko, Law has played a big part in Luffy's journey and growth in the story, as well as pushing the story forward from the beginning of the New World. I just really enjoyed looking back and seeing all the things that Law has added to the story, and how he's kind of like that background character of symbolizing the entire uprising of the new generation against the current status quo, the emperors, the big shots of the world who think they're all comfy up on their thrones. Law is here to say that that shit's not flying anymore and we're gonna cause a storm. So that was my Law appreciation video. Let me know down below if you agree with a lot of the things that I said. What was your favorite Law moment of the entire series, basically? I'd have to say that like his smoker fight where he took his heart, but most importantly where he flipped up the Marine battleship and really once again showcased his crazy powers. that was probably my favorite part, aside from, of course, the big one of Virgo cutting him in half and declaring to the whole world that he is breaking the gears. So it's really cool, and like I said, happy birthday to Law. This is a happy Law appreciation video of the importance of him in the series and everything like that. A little, you know, just an excuse to talk about Law, because like I said, I haven't had any Law videos on my channel yet, and that's a tragedy. So this is it. This is the first start of it. Maybe we'll have some more in the future if he actually takes on Big Mom. Definitely want to talk about that. But that pretty much wraps it up on all the reasons why the alliance of Law and Luffy really pushed the story forward, both for the plot and the world of One Piece, as well as Luffy's journey. So I hope you all enjoyed. And again, check me out on Twitch and Twitter for more One Piece gaming and anime content, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and leave a like, all those things. I do live reactions over on Twitch, so feel free to go follow me over there so we can read the chapter together. I'll be streaming this Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the new chapter, and I hear it's a big one. I'm trying to stay off social media so far because I hear it's a big one, and I'm super excited for that, but we'll get there when we get there. So in the meantime, have a great day, follow your dreams, and check me next time. Bye!